What am I making? Wouldn't you like to know? Hello friends, I am back. If you watched my last video, then I'm back. If it's the first time watching a video, then welcome. I'm here to make a thing again. You probably know from the title that I am making a Christmas tree dress. So every year, the past 3 years, I've made my own dress for my company's holiday party. So I've had an idea to make a Christmas tree dress before, but I always thought it was a little silly for a work holiday party. But this year, you know, that's not happening, so I can do what I want. Although if I think about it, some of the dresses I've done in the past are not the most normal dresses. So the ones I've done in the past, we have, my first one was pretty normal, just like a nice lace purple number. And then the second year I made this one, which was actually based off of Melissa Shields' dress from the first My Hero Academia movie that she wore in the party scene. And then because I wanted to be a little extra, I put loops under the skirt so that I could thread some fairy lights in, and then the pocket had a little slit where I could slide the fairy light switch so that I could turn it on and off. So last year I made this red one. I kind of went for like maybe like a present theme. That's why we got the bow. Anyways, we're gonna make this Christmas tree dress. So the plan is I'm only gonna use fabrics that I have or materials that I have. I should be fine. So hopefully this little Christmas tree dress will be a silly, fun adventure for you all to witness, and hopefully it'll be fun for me as well. We're gonna go on to the next phase where I will terribly draw a design. In all seriousness though, I am using a template here from Hannah Alexander Artwork because I do not understand how to draw bodies. So yes, you should use the tools that are available to you when you can't do things. And that's totally fine. So in my head I had two kind of skirt ideas, and I started to draw them. I had this crisscrossy thing going on, or like just regular tiers, and then kind of decided from there that I liked the tiers. I thought it looked more like a Christmas tree, so then I just went with this right one from there, and then I added a Peter Pan collar. I thought that was cute. Obviously we're having a star headband situation, because are you really a Christmas tree without the star on top? I don't think so. And then I already have in mind what fabrics I'm going to use for these other colors, and then that'll be the base. And if I have anything else, I will definitely be adding fairy lights. I just didn't know how to draw that, so that will go on, and then any other embellishments that I might want to put on, because, you know, it's a Christmas tree. It should look very festive. So let's get to the pattern cutting. So now that I know what design I'm doing, I'm going to be using this pattern. I've used this a few times now so that it's like not folded in correctly. It's really fat. I used this for my dress from 2 years ago. Like this style, it like looks, yeah, pretty much the same. I think I used one of these for last year's, but I can't really remember. And then I used it for a commission as well. But yeah, I didn't realize I would be using this pattern so much. I've already taken out I'm only using the bodice part though. I'm going to be doing the skirt differently because I want that tiered effect. But I've already, yeah, I've cut out I've cut this out before, so I just pulled out the patterns I need for the bodice. And yeah, we're gonna cut some things out, I guess. So these are the two cuts of fabric I have of this. It's like it's stretchy, but I will be interfacing it to give it some structure, at least on the bodice, but I'll leave it for the skirt portion. It's like a jersey type of fabric that I originally got for a cosplay of mine a couple years ago, but I did end up not using it because they sent it to me in 2 cuts, even though I asked for it in like a really one long cut. Yeah, I'm a little concerned if I will have enough fabric, but I will make it work. I'm not sure which one to cut the bodice out of. Probably the smaller one, but we shall see. I did figure out how much fabric I needed for the bodice, but I decided to cut the skirt pieces out first and then cut the bodice pieces just so it was a bit easier to work with. The skirt pieces are just long rectangles where the length was determined by some multiple of my waist circumference. I did reference a YouTube video for this, although I used it as more of a vague guideline rather than following it perfectly, but if you're curious, I will leave a link in the description. I had cut the lining pieces earlier with some white cotton. I didn't have a green cotton, so I'm working with what I got. But I had also made some changes to the lining that's not on the pattern, so that's why I'm using the lining to help me cut out the fabric and the interfacing. I like that the cotton gave the bodice more structure, but I still decided to interface the green fabric. And of course I had to give Sir Iron some screen time as he was put to work again for this project, although not as much as when I made my last blouse. At this point I was pleasantly surprised to find these Christmas themed fabric leftovers from when my mom made a Christmas quilt probably around 20 years ago. Here are a few shots of it. It happened to be hung up for the season. She has long since stopped sewing, but gave me her cabbage when I started picking up the hobby more seriously, and although at the time I didn't know when I was going to be using it, as I was not and still not into making quilts at all, but I'm glad I held on to it because it has added a nice touch to my Christmas tree dress. So my design had a Peter Pan collar, but my pattern did not come with that, so I had to draft my own. Thankfully, we live in a time when I can just find a tutorial online that will tell me just how to do that with my bodice pattern pieces. Of course, I will link the tutorial I used in the description. I had a small selection of red fabrics in the Christmas cabbage collection, but I adored this one with the mistletoe print, and I really wanted to use it for the Peter Pan collar, but I only had enough for the part that people will actually see, which is fine. I used the plain red fabric for the underside, and it all worked out. And now we are on to the gold ruffle trim, which involves me cutting a bunch of long strips from this gold organza. And with those strips, I sewed a really long tube. See, it's pretty long. I then took that tube and used my gathering foot on it to make a nice ruffled gold trim. I did have a test piece of tube that I used to figure out what settings to use on my machine to achieve the desired gather. So here's my bundle of trim that I'll be using for my skirt pieces. I think I did miscalculate a little bit and I had to add a little bit extra to the end because it seemed like I was a couple inches short. It's kind of hard to measure this a little bit, but I had leftover test piece left, so I just added that. Hopefully that will give me enough. If not, I will deal with that when I get there. Now that I had all the pieces for the base dress prepped, I was ready to sew it all together. I first sewed together each tier of the skirt into even longer rectangles. Then I attached that gold ruffle trim to one side of each tier. I actually ended up having to make even more trim because there was not enough. And then I gathered up the other side of each tier so that they were the same length of the tier above them so that I could sew them together. There was a decent bit of gathering to do here, and I got a little confused sometimes because they didn't seem the most even on each tier, but you know, I got through it, it's fine. Once all the tiers were sewn together horizontally, I then pinned the vertical ends together and sewed it up to get a complete skirt. So now that the skirt was done, I could focus on the bodice part, so I started off with the lining, and then I moved on to the main fabric. And then the dreaded part, sewing together and attaching the Peter Pan collar. I did realize that I had made the ends that were on the back a bit too long, so I had to cut them down a bit and re-sew that edge, but overall it went smoothly. And with the bodice done, I then gathered up the top edge of the skirt and sewed it to the bodice. And then the other dreaded part, the zipper. I don't know why, but I am not always that successful with the invisible zipper foot, and some stitches will catch in the zipper feet, which makes it impossible for the zipper to actually work. So I had to rip the stitches out in those places and re-sew, which was annoying enough, so for the second side of the zipper, I just used a regular zipper foot. I don't think this makes it quite as neat on the outside, but it's not that noticeable, and again, this isn't a serious project, so I'm not too bummed about it. And now I can put her on the dress form. Alright, so here she is so far. I did try it on myself and it fits. I could have maybe made the fit better here, but nah, it's fine. This is for funsies. The skirt is a little longer than I kind of planned for, but apparently I can't measure it correctly or something. Okay, so this is like the base, and now I'm going to be adding some details to it. So I tried to drape the red and pink glitter mesh fabric that I had to kind of get an idea on what I wanted, but quickly realized I needed to turn them into thinner strips first. So I wasn't very precise with this, but I cut a bunch of strips about equal length and then stitched them together using thinner strips of the same fabric because I knew sewing thread would be visible, and I thought this was a good idea. I'm not sure if it was the best idea, but it worked out, which is honestly the theme of the whole project. Then I got on the floor and started sewing. And then I was running out of time, so I decided to hang the lights using safety pins. I then got back onto the floor to attach the safety pins in, and then strung the fairy lights around the dress. I ended up using 4 sets of fairy lights, and the switches were just placed in the pockets, 2 in each pocket. And that meant the dress was done. But wait, we have one final step. the very critical headband star. I was originally having trouble freeforming the star shape with the wire, so I cut out a piece of cardboard in a star shape so that I could shape the wire around that. I then wrapped another set of fairy lights around the star. Ooh, look at them lights. And then I just kind of hot glued the organza around the shape. Honestly, not very thought through, but it worked. And now we are done. I grabbed a couple shots on my dress form before putting it on myself. I was pretty pleased with how vivid the lights were, even though I wasn't always in like pure darkness. And even the light on the star was pretty good too. And of course I had to get some shots of me next to our Christmas tree. I think the Christmas tree still won, but I still had fun. You know the amount of things that I had to push off of the sofa just so I can get this in the shot. I don't even know if I want. Maybe we'll just switch to this. Here we go. All right. Okay. So that was fun. I do like the dress. I do wish I had some more time to add on to it, but I kind of figured this can be like my Christmas tree for my crafting space, and then maybe every year I can add onto it. I had thought of adding some detail to the hem here because I don't like how it looks up close, so I thought I would hide some of the ugliness with a little bit of like embroidery. I had wanted to like bejewel the top part a bit, like doing some rhinestone stars or snowflake. I'm pretty proud of this. I didn't buy anything new to make this dress, which is pretty nice. All the fabric I already had. I really like that I had the Christmas themed fabric leftovers that are probably 20 years old, but you know, whatever. I'm glad that I had them for the pockets. Obviously all my holiday dresses have to have pockets, and I basically just put, when we are allowed to go to parties, I will just put everything in my pockets, because who wants to hold a purse at your kind of dark and crowded holiday company party? Not me. Let's see. The fairy lights that I have are just a couple that I already had. I have everything. Just hoard things. I already had them, but it would be kind of nice to maybe change them out for like Christmas tree lights that I do a bit more than just light up. This is 4 different pairs of fairy lights, so it would be nice if everything was on one switch. Maybe that's a project for next year. We'll see. The fairy lights also do get caught in things, but I'm really excited with how this turned out. Yeah, it's gonna go back on my dress form because it's not Christmas yet, so could be my little Christmas tree, like I mentioned. I hope everyone has a merry holiday if you are watching this at the end of the year or before a holiday, who knows. And I will see you all next year with another project. Bye!